You saved the life of a stranger tonight, little Omega. But you have no idea who you truly saved. The cold midnight air surrounded Diamond Moon Castle as Emily Carter stepped beyond the glowing walls carrying a small lantern in her hand. She was only a maid, a forgotten Omega in a kingdom where status often mattered more than kindness. Most people inside the castle knew her name only because they needed something done. They rarely noticed the person behind the simple uniform. They never saw the patience in her heart or the courage hidden beneath her quiet smile. That night, while returning from the garden, Emily noticed something unusual near the edge of the forest path. A silver wolf stood alone beneath the moonlight, looking exhausted and lost. Unlike others who might have been afraid, Emily felt only concern. She slowly approached and whispered, "You look like you need help." She did not know that the creature before her was not an ordinary wolf. She did not know that the silver eyes watching her belonged to Adrian Blackwood, the Diamond Wolf, the most powerful King Alpha in the entire realm. Earlier that evening, Adrian had left the royal halls to escape the endless expectations placed upon him. Every noble family wanted to gain his attention. Every powerful house wanted their daughter to become the future Luna. Yet none of them had ever asked what Adrian truly wanted. They saw the title. They saw the crown. They saw the power. They never saw the lonely man carrying the weight of an entire kingdom. But Emily saw something different. She saw someone who needed kindness. Without knowing his identity, she offered him water and stayed nearby until he seemed stronger. There was no fear in her voice and no desire for reward in her actions. She treated him like someone who mattered not because of his position, but because he was a living being in need. The next morning, Emily returned to her duties inside the castle, unaware that the stranger from the forest had changed forever. She continued cleaning the halls, organizing old books, and helping other servants as she always did. Meanwhile, Adrian returned to the royal chambers, but he could not forget the Omega Maid who had shown him more sincerity in one night than he had received from many nobles throughout his life. When Adrian entered the grand hall later that day, the noble women gathered around him with confident smiles, each hoping to become the Luna chosen by the Diamond Wolf. Among them stood Victoria Whitmore, a respected noble daughter who believed she was the obvious choice. She looked across the room and noticed Emily quietly serving tea in the background. To Victoria and many others, Emily was invisible. Just a maid. Just an Omega. Just someone who did not belong near the royal family. But Adrian looked at her differently. He remembered the kindness she showed when she had no reason to show it. He remembered that she helped him without knowing his name, his title, or his power. For the first time in years, the Diamond Wolf wondered if the person everyone overlooked was the person he had been searching for all along. And while the kingdom prepared for the future Luna selection, destiny had already begun moving in a direction no one expected. The morning after the mysterious encounter in the forest, Emily Carter returned to her ordinary routine inside Diamond Moon Castle, unaware that the most powerful man in the kingdom was thinking about her. She walked through the stone corridors carrying baskets of fresh linens, greeting every servant she passed with the same gentle smile she always gave. To Emily, kindness was not something she used to gain attention. It was simply the way she chose to live. But while she continued working quietly, the entire castle was preparing for the arrival of the noble families, who came hoping to become the future Luna of the Diamond Wolf. The grand halls were decorated with flowers, silver banners, and ancient symbols representing the Alpha bloodline. Every noble woman who entered carried confidence, believing her family name made her the perfect choice. Victoria Whitmore arrived wearing an elegant royal gown, surrounded by admiration from those who believed tradition would decide the future. When she noticed Emily arranging flowers near the entrance, she smiled with quiet judgment. "Some people forget their place," Victoria said softly to the other nobles nearby. Emily heard the words but chose not to respond. She had heard similar comments many times before. As an Omega Maid, she learned that many people decided her value before knowing her heart. Instead of allowing their opinions to change her, she focused on finishing her work and helping those around her. Later that afternoon, Adrian Blackwood walked through the castle halls wearing his royal attire. The same people who ignored Emily immediately changed their expressions when they saw him. Servants bowed. Nobles gathered. Everyone wanted the attention of the King Alpha. But Adrian was not looking at the people surrounding him. His eyes searched for the person who had shown him kindness without knowing who he was. He found Emily in the library, carefully organizing old books that had been forgotten for years. She looked up and quickly lowered her head in respect. "Your Majesty," she said quietly. Adrian studied her expression. There was no excitement about standing near power. No attempt to impress him. Only simple respect. "You spend a lot of time helping others," Adrian said. Emily smiled gently. "Everyone deserves to feel noticed." Her answer stayed with him. Those words were simple, but they carried a meaning he rarely heard. In a kingdom where many people fought to be seen, Emily was someone who made others feel seen. Adrian wanted to understand her more, but he also knew revealing his interest too quickly could bring unwanted attention to her. The noble families would not accept a connection between the King Alpha and a maid easily. That evening, the Luna selection preparations continued. The castle became filled with excitement as families presented their daughters and celebrated their traditions. Emily watched from a distance, believing she had no place in such matters. She did not know that the person everyone wanted to impress was already thinking about the one person who expected nothing from him. Adrian stood alone near the castle balcony, looking at the moon above the kingdom. For the first time in years, he felt that destiny was not a duty written by others. It was something waiting to be discovered. And somewhere inside the castle, the Omega Maid everyone overlooked continued living her quiet life, unaware that the Diamond Wolf had already begun seeing her differently. The days following Adrian Blackwood's return from the forest carried a strange feeling throughout Diamond Moon Castle. Nothing had changed on the surface. The servants still followed their daily routines, the nobles still gathered in the grand halls, and Emily Carter still wore her simple maid uniform while quietly completing her duties. Yet something invisible had shifted. The Diamond Wolf, the man everyone believed was impossible to surprise, had started noticing the smallest details about the Omega Maid everyone else ignored. He noticed how Emily always thanked the kitchen workers who prepared meals before anyone else arrived. He noticed how she repaired old books in the library, because she believed forgotten things deserved care. He noticed how she smiled at people who rarely received kindness from anyone. To the rest of the kingdom, those actions seemed ordinary. To Adrian, they revealed something rare. Meanwhile, the Luna selection preparations grew more intense. Noble families from across the kingdom arrived at Diamond Moon Castle, each hoping their daughter would become the woman standing beside the King Alpha. The halls were filled with expensive gowns, confident voices, and endless discussions about bloodlines and family names. Emily stayed away from the attention, believing she had no connection to such matters. She only focused on her responsibilities. One afternoon, while organizing the royal library, Emily discovered Adrian standing near the ancient shelves. She immediately stepped aside, preparing to leave. "You do not need to leave every time I enter a room," Adrian said calmly. Emily looked surprised. "I thought I should give you space, Your Majesty." Adrian studied her for a moment. "Why do you always think others deserve more space than you?" The question caught her off guard. Emily looked down at the books in her hands. "Because people like me are usually expected to stay in the background." Adrian felt something tighten in his chest when he heard those words. Not because they were dramatic, but because they were honest. He had spent years surrounded by people who wanted his power, yet this Omega Maid had never once tried to gain anything from him. "The world does not decide your value," Adrian said. "People only decide what they are willing to see." Emily looked at him quietly, unsure how to respond. Before she could answer, voices from the hallway interrupted them. Victoria Whitmore entered with several noble women, their conversation stopping when they noticed the King Alpha speaking with Emily. The atmosphere changed instantly. Victoria offered a polite smile, but her eyes showed disappointment. "Your Majesty, the noble candidates are waiting for the official review," she said. Her words reminded everyone of the expectations surrounding the selection. Adrian simply nodded, but before leaving, he looked back at Emily. "I hope you continue taking care of the things others overlook." After he walked away, Emily returned to her work, but she could not forget his words. For the first time, someone powerful had not told her to know her place. Someone had reminded her that she already had one. That evening, the castle prepared for the first official Luna evaluation. The noble women arrived dressed in elegance, ready to prove their worth. Emily watched from a distance, certain she would remain unseen. She did not realize that the true test of a Luna was never about appearance, wealth, or reputation. And the Diamond Wolf had already seen the quality that no ceremony could measure. The first official Luna evaluation at Diamond Moon Castle began beneath the glow of hundreds of crystal lights, and every noble family arrived believing they already knew the outcome. The grand hall was filled with elegant gowns, proud conversations, and expectations built on generations of tradition. Emily Carter stood quietly near the entrance, wearing her simple maid uniform as she prepared to assist the royal staff. She watched the noble candidates present themselves with confidence, each one showing their family symbols and speaking about their heritage. Emily knew she did not belong among them. At least, that was what she had always been taught to believe. Victoria Whitmore walked through the hall with complete confidence. She came from one of the oldest noble families in the kingdom, and many believed she was the obvious choice for the Luna position. When she noticed Emily carrying documents for the ceremony, she gave a small smile. "Some dreams are better left as dreams," Victoria said softly. Emily heard the words but continued walking. She had learned that responding to every insult only gave those words more power. Instead, she focused on doing what she always did, helping wherever she was needed. As the evaluation continued, the noble candidates were asked questions about leadership, responsibility, and the relationship between the Alpha and the kingdom. Many gave impressive answers filled with tradition and knowledge. But when Adrian Blackwood listened, he noticed something missing. Their words sounded perfect, but their hearts remained distant. Then an unexpected moment changed the atmosphere. A group of younger servants struggled to prepare the final part of the ceremony. The nobles ignored them, believing it was not their responsibility. Emily quietly stepped forward. She helped organize the preparations, comforted the nervous workers, and made sure everyone felt included. She did not do it because anyone was watching. In fact, she seemed to forget that anyone important was nearby. Adrian observed from the royal platform. He saw the same kindness he had witnessed in the forest. The same person who had helped a stranger under the moonlight was now helping the people around her without expecting anything in return. Later, when the candidates were asked what made someone worthy of becoming Luna, many spoke about power, influence, and family connections. When Adrian looked toward Emily, he asked her the same question. The entire hall became silent because no one expected the maid to answer. Emily hesitated. "I do not know if I am qualified to answer, Your Majesty." Adrian gently nodded. "Answer honestly." Emily looked around the room before speaking. "I believe a true Luna should make people feel protected, respected, and remembered. A leader should not only stand above others. A leader should understand them." Her words were simple, but they carried more meaning than any prepared speech. The hall remained quiet. Even some nobles who had dismissed her moments before found themselves listening carefully. Adrian looked at Emily with a calm expression, but inside he knew something had become clear. The qualities he had searched for in countless candidates were standing in front of him wearing a maid's uniform. As the evaluation ended, the kingdom continued debating which noble family would be chosen. But Adrian already understood something they did not. The future of the kingdom would not be decided by the person with the most impressive name. It would be decided by the person with the purest heart. The days after the Luna evaluation brought a quiet change throughout Diamond Moon Castle. No official decision had been announced, but everyone could feel that something unexpected had happened. The nobles who once ignored Emily Carter began speaking about her differently. They still questioned how a simple Omega maid could stand near the future of the kingdom, but they could no longer deny the kindness and sincerity she had shown. Emily herself remained unaware of how much attention she had gained. She continued her daily duties, believing that the ceremony had simply been another responsibility she needed to complete. She organized the library, helped the younger servants, and assisted the castle workers who often felt invisible. She never considered that these small actions were the reason people were beginning to see her differently. Meanwhile, Adrian Blackwood spent more time thinking about the choice before him. The council expected him to select a Luna from one of the oldest noble families. They reminded him of traditions, alliances, and the importance of maintaining appearances. But every time Adrian heard their arguments, he remembered Emily standing in the forest beneath the moonlight. He remembered the Omega Maid who offered kindness without knowing she was helping the King Alpha. One evening, Adrian returned to the ancient archives beneath the castle. He searched through old records about previous Luna leaders, hoping to understand why his instincts continued leading him toward Emily. Among the forgotten documents, he discovered stories about women who had guided the kingdom through compassion rather than influence. They were not always the richest or most powerful. They were remembered because they understood the hearts of the people. As Adrian continued reading, he realized something important. The qualities of a true Luna had never been about status. They had always been about character. The next morning, Emily was asked to deliver a collection of old books to the royal archives. She was surprised to find Adrian there. "You spend a lot of time in places people forget," Adrian said. Emily smiled slightly. Maybe forgotten things still have value. Her answer stayed in his mind. He looked at the old records surrounding them and wondered if fate had placed her in his path for a reason. Before Emily could leave, Adrian asked, "Do you ever wish your life was different?" Emily paused. The question made her think about all the moments when she felt unseen. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but I have learned that even a quiet life can have meaning." Adrian looked at her with respect. Many people wanted a better life because they wanted more attention, more influence, or more power. Emily wanted something much simpler. She wanted to be useful. She wanted the people around her to feel valued. Later that day, Victoria Whitmore learned that Adrian had spent time alone with Emily again. For the first time, confidence disappeared from her expression. She began to understand that the King Alpha was not interested in choosing the most suitable noble family. He was searching for someone genuine. Someone who could stand beside him without being changed by power. As rumors spread throughout the castle, Emily remained unaware of the storm surrounding her. She only knew that the King Alpha treated her with respect when others did not. She did not know that every small act of kindness was bringing her closer to a destiny she never imagined. And while the kingdom waited for Adrian's final decision, the Diamond Wolf already knew the truth. The person everyone overlooked was the one person he could never ignore. The quiet days inside Diamond Moon Castle slowly became filled with questions, rumors, and uncertainty. Everyone wanted to know who the Diamond Wolf would choose as the true Luna. The noble families continued preparing their daughters, believing that tradition would decide the future of the kingdom. But Adrian Blackwood no longer looked at the choice the way he once did. He had spent years surrounded by people who wanted the title of Luna, yet he had finally met someone who never wanted anything from him. Emily Carter continued living her life as she always had. She woke before sunrise, helped prepare the castle, and spent her days making sure others felt valued. She noticed the tired servant who needed encouragement. She helped the young workers who felt nervous around the nobles. She listened to people who were often ignored. Emily never considered these actions important. To her, kindness was not a way to gain recognition. It was simply the right thing to do. One afternoon, Adrian invited Emily to walk through the royal gardens. The request surprised her because she was not used to receiving attention from someone like him. As they walked beneath the tall trees and blooming flowers, Adrian asked, "Do you know why people respect a leader?" Emily thought carefully before answering, "Because they are strong?" Adrian shook his head gently. "Strength alone is not enough." Emily looked at him, waiting for his answer. "A true leader makes others feel that they matter." His words reminded her of the way she had always tried to treat people. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They both realized they shared the same belief, even though they came from completely different worlds. But not everyone was happy about the growing connection between them. Victoria Whitmore watched from a distance, feeling the future she expected slowly slipping away. She had always believed that being born into a noble family guaranteed respect. She could not understand why Adrian was interested in someone without a powerful name. During a gathering of noble families, several people questioned Adrian's judgment. They argued that the Luna of the kingdom needed a recognized bloodline and a respected position. Adrian listened calmly. Then he asked one simple question. What value does a perfect family name have if the person carrying it does not understand the people she will lead? The room became silent. No one had an easy answer. Adrian knew choosing Emily would challenge old beliefs, but he also knew a kingdom could not move forward while judging people only by their origins. Later that evening, Emily stood alone near the castle balcony, watching the lights of the kingdom below. She wondered why the King Alpha treated her with such respect. She believed there had to be a reason, but she could never imagine what it was. Adrian found her there and stood beside her. "You always look at the people below before you look at yourself," he said. Emily smiled softly. "Someone has to remember them." Adrian looked toward the kingdom and realized that was exactly why she was different. She did not want to stand above others. She wanted to stand with them. As the final decision approached, the entire kingdom waited for the announcement. The noble families expected tradition to win. But Adrian knew something they did not. The future Luna would not be chosen because she was the most powerful person in the room. She would be chosen because she had the strongest heart. The final days before the Luna announcement brought a different atmosphere to Diamond Moon Castle. The halls that once echoed with judgment now carried quiet conversations about Emily Carter. Many people still struggled to understand how a simple Omega maid had captured the attention of the Diamond Wolf, but they could no longer deny what they had witnessed. Emily had never demanded respect. She had earned it through every small action she took. She continued helping the castle workers, speaking with villagers who visited the kingdom, and showing the same kindness whether someone had a noble title or not. Adrian Blackwood watched these moments carefully, and each one confirmed what he already knew. Emily was not trying to become someone worthy of the Luna title. She already carried the qualities the title represented. The official announcement ceremony arrived beneath a bright morning sky. The Grand Hall of Diamond Moon Castle was filled with noble families, royal advisors, and citizens who wanted to witness the decision that would shape the future of the kingdom. Emily stood at the edge of the hall wearing a simple yet elegant dress prepared for the occasion. She still felt nervous. Part of her wondered if she truly belonged among people who had spent their entire lives preparing for moments like this. But when she looked across the room and saw Adrian, she remembered that he had never judged her by her position. He had seen her before anyone else did. Adrian stepped forward as the hall became silent. The noble families waited, expecting him to announce a name from one of the oldest houses in the kingdom. Victoria Whitmore stood among them with confidence, believing tradition would decide the outcome. But Adrian looked toward Emily instead. For many years, people believed a Luna should be chosen because of family, wealth, or influence, Adrian said. But a kingdom is not guided by titles alone. It is guided by the hearts of those who serve it. Everyone listened closely. Emily Carter showed kindness when there was nothing to gain. She showed respect when others refused to give it to her. She understood the people of this kingdom, because she never believed she was above them. The hall became completely quiet. Emily felt every emotion at once. She remembered the days when she walked through those same halls believing she would always remain invisible. She remembered the whispers and the moments when she questioned her own worth. But now she understood that those moments did not define her. Adrian turned toward her and extended his hand. The true Luna is not chosen because of where she comes from. She is chosen because of who she is. Emily slowly stepped forward and accepted his hand. The moment was not about a maid becoming important. It was about the kingdom finally recognizing the importance that had always existed within her. Among the crowd, many nobles who once dismissed Emily looked at her differently. Some felt regret. Others felt admiration. Even Victoria stood quietly, realizing that the person she underestimated had qualities no noble title could create. Later that evening, Emily walked through the castle gardens with Adrian beneath the moonlight. "Do you still believe you do not belong here?" he asked gently. Emily smiled. "I think I spent too long waiting for someone else to decide my worth." Adrian looked at her proudly. She had discovered something far greater than a title. She had discovered herself. And as the kingdom prepared to welcome its new Luna, everyone finally understood the truth. The person they once overlooked was the person who had been worthy all along. The days after Adrian Blackwood announced Emily Carter as the future true Luna brought a new feeling throughout Diamond Moon Castle. The kingdom was still adjusting to a choice that challenged generations of tradition, but something important had already changed. People no longer looked at Emily and saw only a maid. They began seeing the person she had always been. Emily continued preparing for her new responsibilities, but she refused to let the title change the way she treated others. She still walked through the castle halls speaking kindly to servants. She still listened to villagers who came seeking help. She still believed that every person deserved respect, regardless of their position. Adrian admired this more than anything. He had expected that a royal title might change the way people acted around power, but Emily remained exactly the same. The ceremony that would officially recognize her as Luna approached, and the entire kingdom prepared for the historic moment. Inside the castle, old traditions were carefully followed. Ancient symbols were displayed, royal banners decorated the grand hall, and families from every corner of the kingdom gathered to witness the beginning of a new era. Before the ceremony began, Emily stood alone in a quiet room overlooking the castle gardens. She looked at her reflection and remembered the person she used to be. The Omega Maid who believed she would always stand in the background. The girl who learned to stay silent because people were more comfortable when she was unnoticed. But that person was still part of her story. Those experiences taught her compassion. They taught her to understand the feelings of people who felt forgotten. Adrian found her there and gently asked, "Are you ready?" Emily smiled softly. "I think I am. Not because everyone finally sees me, but because I finally see myself." Adrian knew those words showed the true reason he had chosen her. Emily had never needed a crown to have value. The ceremony began as the kingdom watched in silence. Adrian stood before everyone, not as a ruler demanding acceptance, but as a leader sharing the truth he had discovered. A Luna is not defined by her family name, her wealth, or the expectations of others, he said. A Luna is someone who carries kindness, wisdom, and the courage to care for those who need her. His words reached every person in the hall. When Emily stepped forward, she no longer felt like someone entering a world where she did not belong. She felt like someone returning to a place that had always been waiting for her. As the ceremony continued, many people who once ignored her lowered their heads with understanding. They realized they had judged her by her position instead of her character. Victoria Whitmore watched quietly from among the nobles. She remembered the time she believed Emily could never stand beside the Diamond Wolf. Now she understood that true worth was never something a person inherited. It was something they showed through their choices. After the ceremony, Emily and Adrian walked through the castle gardens beneath the evening sky. The kingdom celebrated around them, but they enjoyed a peaceful moment away from the crowd. "Do you think people will remember this day?" Adrian asked. Emily looked toward the castle lights. "I hope they remember why it happened." She paused and smiled. Not because a maid became Luna, but because everyone learned that a person's heart matters more than their place in the world. Adrian looked at her with pride. The kingdom had gained a new Luna, but more importantly, it had discovered a new understanding of what leadership truly meant. The first sunrise after Emily Carter officially became the true Luna of Diamond Moon Castle felt different from any morning before. The kingdom continued moving as it always had, but the hearts of its people had changed. The halls that once carried whispers about an Omega Maid now carried words of respect and admiration. Emily walked through the castle wearing her Luna attire, yet she still greeted every servant by name and thanked every person who helped maintain the kingdom. To her, becoming Luna was never about standing above others. It was about standing beside them. Adrian Blackwood watched her from the balcony of the royal chambers, remembering the night when he first met her beneath the moonlight. At that time, Emily had no idea who he was. She did not know he was the Diamond Wolf or the King Alpha everyone admired. She only saw someone who needed kindness, and she offered it without hesitation. That memory remained the reason Adrian knew his choice had been right from the beginning. Emily had not changed because she received a title. The title had simply revealed what had always existed inside her. As the weeks passed, the kingdom began experiencing a new era. Emily visited villages, listened to families, and encouraged people who had spent years feeling forgotten. She understood their struggles because she had once felt invisible herself. The people trusted her not because she wore the Luna symbol, but because she made them feel valued. Adrian often joined her during these visits, and together they showed the kingdom a different kind of leadership. A leader did not have to be distant to be respected. A ruler could be powerful and still be compassionate. One evening, Adrian and Emily returned to the castle gardens where their journey had begun to change. The moon shined above the trees, creating the same peaceful atmosphere as the night they first met. Do you ever miss the life you had before? Adrian asked. Emily looked across the garden and smiled. I remember it. But I do not wish to return to believing I was less than others. Adrian nodded. He understood. The greatest change in Emily's life was not becoming Luna. It was learning that she had always deserved respect. Years of being overlooked had not weakened her. They had shaped the kindness that made her different. Inside the castle, even those who once questioned Adrian's decision had accepted the truth. Victoria Whitmore, who had once believed status determined everything, eventually understood the lesson Emily had shown the kingdom. A person's value was never created by a title. A title only revealed the responsibility someone was ready to carry. As the years continued, stories of the Diamond Wolf and his true Luna spread throughout the realm. People remembered how an Omega Maid, who had once been ignored, became the heart of the kingdom. They remembered how the most powerful King Alpha did not choose the person with the greatest name, but the person with the greatest heart. And beneath the endless moonlight of Diamond Moon Castle, Emily and Adrian built a future together, proving that kindness could overcome judgment, courage could rise from quiet places, and true destiny was not found through power alone. It was found when someone finally saw the beauty that had been there all along.